This is the Arielle Lauren
This
Show.
is the Arielle Lauren Show.
This is the Arielle Lauren Show. It's all about entrepreneurship. I mean, we have to be real about what the journey's really like.
This is the Arielle Lauren
This
Show.
is the Arielle Lauren Show.
This is the Arielle Lauren Show. This is the show for the entrepreneur who is ready to make it.
This is the Arielle Lauren
This
Show.
is the Arielle Lauren Show.
This is the Arielle Lauren Show.
So I have with me today the world traveler and outspoken creative entrepreneur herself, Evita Robinson. She has built her urban travel group, Nomadness, into 10,000 plus members, been featured in the New York Times, Mashable, and on the Melissa Harris Perry Show. But most notably, at least I think so, is really this woman's dedication to her company, and her get it done attitude has really allowed her to raise over $30,000 on Kickstarter to get the funding she needed to jumpstart this business. Together, Evita and I created an online course called Crowdfunding Mastermind, teaching people just like you how to raise money online to fund their creative projects, just like we've both done. I'm so excited to have her here on the show to discuss crowdfunding, money, and creative entrepreneurship. Hey, sis, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
How are you?
Awesome. Awesome.
It's been a while.
It has. And okay, so there are like many ways to get money for a business. Why did you specifically choose crowdfunding for Nomadness?
I think for me, it always goes back to leaning into the community that I've built, right? And because they benefit from everything that we've been able to put together with the projects, from the RV tour to, the first international meetup, which essentially has become our yearly anniversary party at this point, they were the ones that were going to be reaping the benefits. So I think it was really important to have that correlation between where we got the money from and where the money was going. I really like to have the least amount of middlemen in that space as possible. So it made sense to kind of lean into the community that was already built.
Yeah, so that totally makes sense. So why don't you tell us a bit about Nomadness as well for people who are not familiar with the brand?
Right. So Nomadness, it's kind of a monster with a bunch of different tentacles right now, as you know. But the baseline for Nomadness as far as the company, we're most well known for Nomadness Travel Tribe, which is an international urban travel group, really targeting diverse millennial travelers all around the world. Now, approaching our 4-year anniversary, we have over 10,000 members worldwide. I tell people all the time, there's no country that I can travel to right now and not know somebody that's there, and it's really cool to be able to say that. So that's a big thing as far as what Nomadness is known, but as far as the business end, there's a lot of kind of tentacles. People ask me all the time, how do you make money on this? We have a merchandise line, nomadnessmerch.com. Apparel was something I had no background in. And to be able to go from 0 kind of to 100 with that over the course of the last couple of years has been absolutely amazing. Whether from creating these kind of kitschy one-liners that we have on shirts, I have more passport stamps than you, or, friends don't let friends stay domestic, which is one of my favorites. We've created an entire brand identity with the Nomadness type traveler. And I think that's what makes the merchandise line do so well within our group and with people that are interested. You don't have to be a member to buy the merchandise. And that's allowed us to be put in a position where we can forge partnerships with bigger brands that we really respect. We just actually last month, in July of 2015, just announced our partnership with Rue 107, and a dream of mine. I've always had this dream of having a bathing suit. And so we actually created a bathing suit, co-created a bathing suit with Rue 107, and we're able to release it this summer. And that's like amazing. And to also have a company like Rue, one whose bathing suits that I buy on my own, so I'm a fan and a consumer, to have them bridge with your brand is absolutely amazing. And as Nomadness grows, people are going to start to see the other partnerships that we've been working on the back end, from our web series with Issa Rae. We actually just debuted our first episode in May 22nd, and our last episode is the next one that's going to be going. But our web series, the Nomadness Project, signing on with somebody like Issa Rae, being distributed on her YouTube channel of over 200,000 subscribers. She's just an amazing person, and she's an amazing co-executive producer along with myself to be able to work with. Like, she gets it, and what it's like being an original content creator and kind of working your way up the ranks and getting the numbers and the eyes and ears that you need on your product. There's the group trips that we have. So that's another part of it. 5 to 6 times a year, we take a group of anywhere from 15 to 30 members of our community out, and we're creating these experiences all around the world, from Holi in India to Running with the Bulls to Samoa and South Africa. It's an amazing, amazing, umbrella that Nomadness LLC is, and it trickles down into quite a few bits and pieces that actually keep the engine itself running. And we have a lot of new stuff that's coming. I haven't even tapped a quarter of my ideas of what I'm doing with Nomadness. So if we are where we are now and not even a fourth of what's been planning has actually hit, we're in an extremely good place. So I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm proud of you. Like, this has been
Thank
absolutely
you.
amazing to watch your journey. And so, speaking about brand partnerships, I feel like you've really been able to build those because you've built brand credibility. And I feel like part of the way that
Mm,
you've been able to do that is through proving like, yes, I can actually raise, money online, look at my sales, this is what I'm bringing to the table. Look at the brand and the community that I've built. And so I know that, obviously no business starts that way, right? And so,
right.
this started for you kind of more so as a web series. And so I'm wondering if you can take us through, I think, your 3 different Kickstarter campaigns, not
Okay.
necessarily like the nitty gritty details of like what happened in each campaign, but kind of, where your company was at and the thought
Right.
process behind like, okay, the first campaign, the second campaign, and the third campaign.
Right. And I actually think that this is an awesome question because the irony is I didn't even have the tribe when I had my first campaign. So there was no business. The first campaign was for me to raise money. I think I was going for, $5,000 to go shoot a pilot out in Berlin on a trip that I was taking by myself to kind of get the web series going. Everything for me started with the web series. My background is in television and video production, so you'll see a lot of that media influence in a lot of the things that I do and what I push for with the brand. With that being said, I really had to rely on my personal and professional network at that time, and that campaign was in early 2011. Months before Nomadness Travel Tribe was started, ironically, but definitely before I had actually honed in on that community. And I think more so than a statement to the community on the first campaign that I had, I think it was a statement to having a sense of integrity amongst your immediate community before you even build, your actual network. Those people did not donate into that first campaign because of necessarily the idea, or definitely not because of the tribe, because it wasn't created at that point. They dedicated and donated into that because of me. There was something in me, the presentation, these people knowing that I put the hard work where my mouth is, and that I was going to do anything and everything that it needed to make sure that it was done. And that was something that resonated with them. I actually have a member, he's a member now, and he's like one of our star members, but he was hilarious, and I went to college with him, Fiedler. Fiedler was like, I was throwing money at your Kickstarters. I wasn't even paying attention to what you were doing. He's like, I sent money to it because I was giving it to you, because I know you and I believe in you and what you have done. And I think a lot of people have to understand, especially in the age of social media, there is so much value. It is priceless, the type of integrity that you keep with your business and with the people that you are asking for help from. You're not begging, but you are asking for help. And so they have to know that when they hand over this money, whether it's $5 or $500, that they're giving it to someone that they can trust is going to get the job done no matter what. And that's why I really chose Kickstarter, was because it was all or nothing. I didn't want to go some of the other routes because I'm like, okay, if I make half of my money, I still have to pull this off with, a lower budget. It was either we're going to go full to the wall and do this and knock it out of the park, or we're not going to do it at all. That was the first Kickstarter. The second one was when the tribe was actually very young. It was only about 6 or 7 months old when we did that first Kickstarter, and it was to create our first huge international meetup. And every time I did a campaign, I doubled the amount of money that I was going for. So the first one was $5,000, the next one was $10,000, and then the third one was $20,000. But I kept my time frame the same. I always target mine at 45 days. That's kind of like my sweet and comfortable spot. So the second one was to get a huge event in which our members could really, more members than just were allocated on trips, could actually get to one place at one time and take the conversation off of online and bring it into real life, which is something that you miss and really can't be duplicated through technology. So it was our international meetup, which, as I said, now has turned into our yearly anniversary party. We had no idea that it was going to turn into something that needed to be annual. But we had almost 200 people fly out for the event from all over the world. I think at that time, the farthest somebody had flown was we had somebody fly in from Haiti and somebody else fly in from the UAE. And that was just amazing to see everyone come together and the event just be fun and amazing and vibrant. We have our, funny kind of like internal award ceremony in which the members vote on each other. And it was just nice to celebrate them and to celebrate the movement. And I think they really appreciate anytime we come together with that. And then the third one was for our RV tour, which by far was the biggest initiative that we had taken on. It was a cross-country RV tour. We were on the road for 3.5 weeks, driving from New York to Los Angeles. And along the route, we had meetups in our big cities, so like Washington, DMV, Atlanta. We met up for some of our NOLA members in New Orleans for Jazz Fest, and then again in LA. But along that route, I was giving presentations at HBCU colleges about travel and diversity, and, letting them know that when they get to the point and they have that one passport stamp, that they have a home, and letting them know that there are people out there that look like them, come from the same background, can relate to them, speak like them, that they can actually travel the world with, and you don't have to be in this higher echelon economic bracket in order to be able to do so. And that was really important. And, those are kind of like the screenshots of what the 3 campaigns were. And in each instance, we hit over our target. The first one, I think we hit over about $1,000. The second one, we hit over about $1,500. And the last one, we went over like $3,000, almost $4,000.
Wow. And so actually speaking of kind of the goals, how do you set your goals? What are some of the things that go into like, okay, this campaign needs, the first campaign needs to be 5, the second is 10, the third is 20. How did you come up with those numbers?
Right. Really baseline is coming from what your needs are. That's it. And leaving some wiggle room for miscellaneous. I'm actually glad that I had kind of like the smaller one earlier on, because I learned a lot of my mistakes and things that I was able to tweak in the following 2 in that first campaign. Everything from shipping costs and, making sure that your rewards are flat and don't require these like awkward boxes and really heavy weight to be shipped out. Just kind of fine tuning a bit of the process along the way. But baseline, you need to make sure that you itemize every single thing that you could possibly need for your campaign, and that's your base number. And then you kind of grow your number from that point on.
Got it. And so now you're working on a huge travel conference for Nomadness called NMDN, but I noticed you didn't do a crowdfunding campaign for this project. So what was the thought process behind that decision?
We sold tickets. That was the thing. We wanted something that was admission-based. I mean, Nomadness is growing, and crowdfunding isn't necessarily my first route, but it's the route that when we have to take it, we pull the trigger. We're not scared of it, and I think that's the difference. But if there's a way that we can bring in money and that takes care of it, then we're going to do that. People are going to see our sponsorship partners. If you go on nmdnconference.com, you'll see our sponsorship partners. It's our first conference, and we sold out of our tickets, which is like amazing. So at this point, I have literally companies coming to me like, we need entry into your conference. We understand it's sold out, but like, what can we do? And it's amazing to be able to think that this is our first one and the reception already has been so amazing. And we're extremely grateful for that. But for us, it was more so us being able to kind of stand on our own with this. And we have some amazing people that are on the panels, like Danny Simmons is like a pseudo mentor of mine, but also a friend. And, him kind of taking me underneath his wing. He's going to be speaking on one of our panels. We have an artist, Leonard Combs, Robert, 24-year-old, just like pen artist from Paris that was written about in courts. And what he does is he tattoos people's passports and does these intricate like pen drawings around your stamps, and they're beautiful pieces of artwork. We have him coming in from Paris. We just, within the last 48 hours, I haven't even announced this to the tribe, but Pharaoh Monch is actually going to be on our International Artists, our Urban Art House panel. Like, being able to pull these types of names and people and support on our first go around is, amazing. and there's no other word to really describe it, and very humbling, but we have to rise to the occasion, and I think we're going to do it. The conference is ours. It's not going to be in a hotel conference room like so many of them are. We're taking over an art space. The aesthetic is our own, and we're really going to kind of flip the script on what it means to be at a travel conference, what it looks like, what the travelers are like. Our tagline for NMDN is travel plus diversity plus creativity. And you are going to see those three things under one roof going on Saturday, September 26th. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm super excited for it, actually.
That's
nervous,
dope.
But excited.
Understandable, completely understandable. But, that is dope. And I think it's a real, testimony to just how far your company has come, and kind of in those early days, kind of really needing crowdfunding to really raise the money to get these projects, off the ground, but then getting to a point in your business where you've, obviously simultaneously been building your brand and building your community and, networking and really building those relationships, so that now you're at a point where crowdfunding is an option versus a necessity.
Right.
And so you basically have the choice, with NMDN to say, you know what, we don't have to go the Kickstarter route or the crowdfunding route. Like, we really can focus on, just selling tickets, because our audience is strong enough and our consumer base is strong enough to actually buy it. And we have the brand partnerships as well to support it through sponsorships. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the psychology, though, of asking for money. I know this is something you love to talk about. And so what were some of the mental fears that you had to push through in the past to do 3 crowdfunding campaigns?
I think, there were a bunch, but I think the biggest one always comes with, am I / is my project and idea worthy enough of even asking for help? There's a big self-worth and project worth component that comes to that. A lot of people, they sell themselves short, or they don't want to feel like they're begging or asking for a handout, or they're not sure. You have to really fight that battle before you ask anybody for a dime, because if you don't talk with a sense of conviction, you're not going to convince anyone else that your project is worth whatever money, whether it's 5 cents or $500, whatever they're willing to actually put into it. And you, more so than anybody else, has to believe and be the cheerleader for your campaign and for your idea. And I think it really starts there. It starts with you before you talk to anyone else. You have got to get that part of the psychology that everyone goes to, including me 3 times in. You got to get that in check before you move forward.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it's interesting because, we come from 2 kind of different crowdfunding backgrounds. So I more so, did it as a consultant, where I was hired by an entrepreneur like yourself to basically launch a campaign and raise, over $10,000 in 30 days, basically, for her first month of sales. And so, the psychology for me was, I think, a lot easier because I wasn't directly attached to the project. We ended up raising close to $14,000 in 30 days. But, for me, it was all about, okay, let's just make sure that this product is strong enough, our branding is strong enough, our press relationships, and our strategy is tight enough that, we can make the ask. But for her, I think personally, it was nerve-wracking because that's her baby.
Yeah. And it is personal.
Yeah.
It's personal. Exactly what you just said.
Totally. And so, I was able to see through her, wow, some of the things that were going through her head, I think some of the things that were going through my head as a consultant is just I got to do my job. I got to make sure we raise this money and we beat this goal. But it is interesting, that psychology of asking for money. I think it's easier for me as a consultant because, it's sales to me. It's business. Business is business. But I do think that sometimes it can be more emotional for the actual entrepreneur who's doing it. So that's definitely interesting.
And if you think about it, most of the people that are crowdfunding are creatives to a certain extent. we were brought into this world sensitive. Like, we were just, creatives is just, we're always looking, we're very sensitive to our surroundings. And so, especially when it's art or something that we're actually creating from nothing, with our hands, with our minds, with our hearts, there's a very, very emotional component to it that people need to not dumb down. Don't dumb it down and act as though you're numb going through the process. If anything, embrace that personal attachment, because building that into your story as to why you're doing it, the why is so important, and being able to be articulate and creative with telling your story of why means so much in your actual process. And people really need to embrace that instead of finding it as a crutch or a weakness.
Oh yeah, that story is essential, and you really have to embody it, because for me, even as a consultant, like, people actually thought that was my project, even though I wasn't the person in the video. They just assumed,
Right.
because I was so passionate about it, and I was like, this product is solving an issue. Obviously, the moi box is, related to, storing your adult intimate items or your sex toys, if we want to be more blunt. And so, because I had a brand as well that was very rooted in the audience, it was very rooted in the work that I've done around writing and creating content around sexuality, people really resonated, with it. And they saw how passionate I was about it, because it was related to what I've dedicated part of my life's work to. And so
Right.
I really, do feel like you have to be that number one fan, for your project. Like, you have to go hard. Like, no one should be more enthusiastic about your crowdfunding project than you are. And you have to sell people, yes, on your integrity and that you're going to get the job done, but you got to sell people on your passion as well, and why this means so much to you, because everyone's going to vibrate off of that. They're going to donate off of that. The press is going to write about that. And so, yeah, that's so, so, so important. So my next question for you, in terms of your observations, what are some of the biggest mistakes you notice people doing with crowdfunding?
Maybe starting too early. I think that's something I'm big. I always tell people one of my biggest tips is that I usually do my crowdfunding campaigns during tax return season, because it's the one time in the year where a bunch of people have expendable income. I think it's really tricky to kind of work around like the holiday season if you have to. I totally get it, but I think it's definitely a bit trickier. I think some people overshoot their number and some people undershoot their number. Really kind of coming into a place, especially with your first campaign. And I believe you spoke to this in our crowdfunding mastermind, was that there was this sweet spot that was like right under $10,000 for a lot of successful first campaigns. I think you need to be very realistic with the numbers game. And I don't just mean how much money you're going for, but what the actual reach of your network is. The other thing is, I'm big on building my network first. It kind of defeats the purpose to create a grand scheme campaign only for it to not really, to fall on deaf ears, or to just fall because there are no ears there to catch it. So really being cognizant of what your numbers are across the board as far as the realistic, and I mean really be realistic. If there's 10 people on your team that are, sending stuff out to their network, but, you have 10,000 people in that network, but 5,000 of them overlap, you all can't be counting those 5,000. You have to really, really be realistic about what the reach is and how you're going to go about targeting them through your marketing.
Yeah, totally. And we definitely, break that down in Crowdfunding Mastermind, down to the science, in terms of, this is how much, if you have 5,000 Facebook friends, this is how much, you can probably anticipate in terms of a rate of return and pledging. And so, that's, one kind of way of doing it. And then, there is not all of your friends are created equal. And so I say that because, some of your friends can be influencers. And so if they love you and they love your project and they believe in it and they feel like it resonates with their audience, if they have an audience of, 100,000 readers, per month, and they do a, blog post about you, a feature about you, a video about you, whatever, in your campaign, asking their audience to support you, it's very different from mom, sending out an email to a few of her friends, like, support my baby. And so I think that that's something that you have to definitely, keep in mind when you're planning for your campaign. Like, okay, who do I have access to? And so, when I was building out the Moi Box Kickstarter campaign, Lydia had access to, some pretty significant influencers. And then me personally, just working as a publicist and knowing how to pitch properly and having prior relationships as well, I knew people who I can make phone calls to and say, hey, can you write about this? And this is why it's going to resonate with your audience and why it's going to be a benefit to you as a journalist to write about this campaign. And so
Right.
that's how, I think you can really, I think on the back end say, okay, this is realistically what my fundraising goal should be. And, I always say, like, when you can always surpass your goal, dramatically. That's, I think that's every crowdfunder's dream, is to set their goal at one thing and then blow it out of the water. But you never want to be, in my opinion, in a position where you set a goal and you don't get anywhere close to being there. If that's the case, then you probably needed to think about building out your project in phases potentially, or doing something smaller, just to prove maybe the value of the product and grow your audience, and grow your network as well. So yeah, totally.
Right. I also think another mistake that people make is that they assume that their family are going to jump on their bandwagon and be the first and probably the biggest donors, and it doesn't happen, and then their feelings are hurt. And you have to understand that, it's going to be the people that really either derive a benefit, again, or really believe in you. You're going to learn a lot about your dynamic. I mean, there were obviously, with the number of tribe members that we've had over the years and the number of donations we have, there are a ton of people who never, donated. And it's not something that you need to internalize as taking personal. I mean, take note of it, because if you do another campaign, you know who's got your back. So that's more so for data research, but don't digest that as a personal loss in any way if your family and friends or people that you really thought were going to spearhead your campaign don't. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, for sure. And so we've also seen a lot of celebs start to use crowdfunding to fund their projects. Spike Lee, Ricky Lake, Seth Godin. Why do you think they're using crowdfunding when they have access to other sources of funding?
I think that they're all about the community as well. One of the residuals, kind of like the side effects, quote unquote, of crowdfunding is that it becomes this huge marketing tool that people didn't use before, right? So, you end up with more followers, you end up with more press, you end up with more eyes on your project, because it's forcing you to push something out in a way that is different and probably a bit more aggressive than you normally would if it was on its own. I also think that there is something to being able to go to, Spike Lee, like, whether it's not getting funding from these, larger networks or, film houses, all the way to just wanting to do something independent so that the creative control is still 100% with the content creator themselves. A lot of times when you build on and you bridge and you go with these bigger entities, they want stakes in it, or they want to start to change the vision that was originally created for the project. So as a way to keep the sense and the integrity of it, and not necessarily having to pay for a complete, multi-million-dollar project out of their own pocket, I think it's actually really smart and very interesting seeing the growth in the trend of, more affluent and famous, influencers and content creators going the crowdfunding route.
I noticed, I think it's about creative control in a major way. It's like, so how can we create, this documentary, this film, this book, etc., and still maintain creative control? And then also, as you kind of mentioned before, is that community aspect and that marketing tool. And so, I've seen a lot of book authors. In fact, we interviewed 7 experts as part of our crowdfunding mastermind course and community. And, one of the experts was Kenesha Grayson, and she did her book launch. I think she raised about $11,000, which is more than the average book advance, actually. She raised like $11,000 because she said, I wanted to do one big promotion for my book. She's like, I wanted to give it, all or nothing. She did it on Kickstarter, and, she got the press. And she got the people to, who said like, oh, I'd love to buy your book, or, support your book, or, whatever, to actually put their money where their mouth was, because it was all or nothing. And it was for, I think 30 days or maybe 45 days. And people had that short kind of window of opportunity to put their money where their mouth was. And so I think there are many benefits to it that go beyond obviously just having, specifically the money. So absolutely.
Right.
And so tell me, what's next for you, or tell us what's next for you. Any campaigns lined up? What's going on with Nomadness? Give us the rundown.
Everything's going on with Nomadness. So yeah, with us just launching, again, the bathing suits with Rue 107, we're really pushing those. They came out absolutely amazing, and you can see them at nomadnessmerch.com. In addition, we have our NMDN conference, and that's going to be Saturday, September 26th, Tribe Anniversary Weekend. So we have a lot of members that are going to be flying in, not just for the conference and supporting that, but also that evening for the anniversary party. Obviously, we have our trips. Our next big one is actually going to be heading out to Thailand in around Thanksgiving, actually, in November. So we're working on that. And we have some partnerships. We have a lot of partnerships that I can't speak on right now that are kind of like in the mix, but we definitely want everybody, check out the Melissa Harris Perry link, the New York Times article, the Mashable article. We're working on our app right now, so that's in development, hopefully looking to roll that out before the end of this year, which I think is going to be amazing. I think the app is actually going to be a game changer. It may be a little bit different from what people were expecting from us, and I think it's gonna make a big drop. But yeah, just building with the partnerships, focusing on the conference and anniversary, and getting this season 2 edited up with Issa Rae so that we can continue on with the video goodness so people can watch us at the Nomadness Project with her YouTube channel.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for coming on the show, sis. I really appreciate you being here and dropping knowledge.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
To learn more about Evita's travel group and company Nomadness, you can visit nomadnesstv.com, and we'll also link up all the other links that she mentioned in the episode on her show notes on ariellelauren.com. And if you want to raise money for your business or creative project, go to crowdfundingmastermind.com to join the online course and community that Evita and I created for people just like you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. You can subscribe to The Arielle Lauren Show on iTunes, Android platforms, and YouTube. Just follow the links on ariellelauren.com. But don't click off this episode just yet. I always like to give a free gift, discount, or special offer away for every episode, so hold on for a few seconds. If you've ever wanted to raise money on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or GoFundMe for your business or creative projects, I can show you how. Learn from me, Evita Robinson, and 7 other crowdfunding experts that have mastered raising money online. We provide you with a 3-hour training, 24/7 online community support, and in-depth interviews with experts sharing the do's and don'ts of crowdfunding. If you want in, go to crowdfundingmastermind.com and sign up for our program, crowdfundingmastermind.com.